is collected.
To have a really supportive relationship with a group, that can happen at a later stage.
Ago, that the black man is not the man, but then you have people like Sean Brown. Hi, welcome to the new normal. It's been a minute and I've been quite busy, so hence why it's been so long. Principaling is a lot of work, and so I had to take a pause to get all of the things down that I needed to do in order to do my job well. I'm happy being a principal. I think it's the best job I've ever had. It allows me to bring all my creative juices to the forefront of my brain, my math skills, my academic capabilities. And then I work in this dope art school called Wadley. So all the artistic abilities that I have as well allow are a stage for me to execute all that I love to do. So shout out to my Wadley family. Shout out to the Norman family, Bob Norman, executive producer. And shout out to my new partner, Lisa Dennerstein and Dennerstein and Norman LLC. Just a quick blurb, a quick plug. We are a equity team, Lisa Dennerstein and I, who are partnered to emancipate human potential. So if you have any business or clients that you know of who need work with equity, that means making sure that your company is not racially biased, making sure that if you're in education, you're teaching literacy that's not racially biased. We ensure that also you are maximizing yourself as a human being. So we conduct life coaching sessions. We do it all. Anything that's going to unleash your human potential, we are there for the game. But our main work and focus is in equity. So Dennerstein and Norman LLC is Dennerstein, DENERSTEIN .Norman, NORMAN @gmail.com. Email us if you want us to work with you on any equity work. And we're also educational consultants. We kind of do it all. But welcome to the new normal. And I'm so happy to be here today. I'm using this time off to celebrate the indigenous people, to tape for you this session on remote learning and blended learning. So as a principal, I've been tasked to put my whole school online. And the reason why I say that is because in order for the changes that the Department of Education for New York City has put forth, in order for those changes to actually take effect, I have to put my whole school online. And therefore, that has been a lot of work. I've never done that before. There's no training in it. It's like disaster management, and no one's trained us in what disaster management online looks like. And I just want to take the time to shout out my principals who come into work. You know, I know that some of us, for whatever accommodations, have to stay home, but I really and truly, my heart goes out to all my principals, including myself, who are in the trenches every day, showing up to work, dealing with all the pressures in person of having a school that has shifted to this remote learning, blended learning way. And I say blended learning, remote learning is all the same thing, because at some point in time, a child has to be at home. And when children have to be at home, we have to design instruction for them that looks a lot differently than classroom work. As principal, we have been it has been put upon us to come up with these designs, although they give the framework. How you truly get it done explicitly is not formulated. And it's a lot of work. We have principals who have small schools all the way to thousands of children, and we all have to do this work that we're not trained for. And if we're not trained for it, teachers are not trained. Teachers are not trained to give online instruction. So am I saying not to have not value or just not to have faith in the DOE? No, what I'm telling you is that as a principal who is very highly educated in the ways of educating children, training has not been provided for this time that we are in. And so I am beseeching, begging, asking families to take up the slack. And what does that mean? So a child is remote or they're blended. The teacher is in front of them, giving them instruction for whatever 15, 45-minute time frame. What's happening? Well, if you've ever been in an online class, you know that a kid could turn on their camera, not turn on their camera. A kid can answer, a kid cannot answer. A kid can go offline and choose not to participate at all. A child is really, whether they are pre-K all the way through 12th grade, it is left upon them to interact with that teacher. Now, some teachers do it better than others because, of course, even in a classroom setting, some teachers have better control than others. But on this online learning, a lot of control is taken away from the teacher, and it's up to the environment that the child is sitting in to foster that sense of importance and urgency around education. Meaning this, or if a child is home, who's ensuring that the camera's on? If a child is home, who's ensuring that the child is paying attention to the teacher? Because the teacher for 45 to 50 or however many minutes doesn't want to take the whole time going, Kylima, turn on your camera. Kylima, turn on your camera. Kylima, turn on your camera. That's like a waste of time. So a teacher will keep teaching in spite of the fact the kid is not paying attention. What's some other trepidations about online or blended learning? Well, for some of us, we weren't able to craft a program where instruction was 5 days a week. Now, I shout out people like my son's school, Dr. Michael Wilshire, who was able to foster for his middle school 5 days a week instruction. I have a middle school too. I didn't do that. I did 2 days a week of instruction. And then upon reflection, realized that English and math needed to be 5 days a week. Because like I said, no one told us what's the best way. There's no research, there's no anything for a principal to design the best ways of instruction. So we are learning as we go, and which means people experimenting with people's children. How do I know that's true? Well, in the New York Post, they have that Greenwich Village, which is District 2, one of the far-reaching better districts in terms of performance. People have waiting lists, schools have waiting lists in order for their children to get into the District 2 schools, right? They have taken their children out of New York City public school by the hundreds, and they've placed them in private or parochial schools. Why? Because they provide 5 days a week instruction in person. In person, 5 days a week instruction, smaller schools so they're able to social distance, but people realize that this online communication is not the most ideal way for students to learn. Now, I know there's some experimentation going on, because why would it be that certain wealthier families are opting for in-person 5 days while the rest of us is left to scramble with this notion of online, not online? You have to ask yourself. And so what I'm saying is that whoever's home monitoring the education of a child, they have to step up to the plate, myself included. My sons were in their bedrooms doing their work on their bed. I hadn't thought about it. It wasn't until a parent, shout out Leah Vargas, one of my parents, who said, Norman, I'm buying this desk and table for my daughter. And I asked her why. And she said, because in the bedroom, I find that she's a lot more sluggish and not really participatory in these classes. I said, let me check it out for myself. When I went to go and look, I love my sons, but being in the bed with the covers wrapped around you, you're not learning anything. So immediately I had to adjust my gauge, like, oh my God, even though I'm telling people, be studious, help their kids, I had some strange things going on in my own house for remote learning. And I'm an educational, quote unquote, expert. So I got them the desk and I got them the chair, thinking that the bedroom was going to be the best place. Incorrect. That desk and chair needed to be in an open space like our living room in order for people to see them and watch them participate in school like they're in regular school. Now, I know everybody don't have the room because we live in New York City. Some of us live in close fine quarters. So what am I asking? I'm saying that every parent needs to provide a space that's not a bedroom. I don't care if it's the kitchen, it could be the hallway, any space outside of the bedroom where a child can perform their duties to learning, where the adult passing back and forth, if there's an adult passing back and forth, can monitor this learning. What else? Well, one thing's for sure, I go to work. I've opted, and like I said, shout out to my principals who've opted, that in the face of a pandemic, as a general of my school, like I'm a general, right? I'm in charge, I show up. And so in me showing up, it leaves my two sons not home with someone who can help and monitor, because my husband works nights. He gets off at 6 a.m. By the time he gets home, the man has to sleep. That's just truth. So he's sleeping and these children are going to work. So who's monitoring them? That's the case in a lot of homes. Not that people are doing night work, everyone, but people are going to work and they're leaving more older children by themselves, or even if it's a younger child, they're leaving them with a babysitter. But who's monitoring this work? Who's doing this check-in with them to ensure that every period, every time they're answering teacher questions, asking teacher questions, taking down notes, and completing assignments? Well, if the child is home, it's not the teacher who can keep up like they used to in the classroom for the most part. So who's doing it at home? We had to adjust. My husband, who's now the night worker, becomes the daytime teacher, whereby a certain time of the day, he's coming downstairs to check on them and ask them questions like, what did you learn today? Did you answer? See that the class started. It's been 10 minutes. You haven't asked or answered any of the teacher's questions. You haven't participated. Kind of like a para. So my husband is the para at home. So if it's true for my kids, guess what I know it to be true for? All children. All children need an at-home para to help them facilitate this time, or at-home teacher, or at-home somebody that's not just keeping them safe in the house, but also making sure that they are getting their work done. No one trained us. You see, so all of these things I'm telling you because after experimentation from March with having people that I've studied in my home called children and watching the larger view and talking to other principals, there are certain things that are true for this remote learning that no one is really focused on. They're more focused on who could come to the building, who can't come to the building, teacher schedules, but they're not talking about the learning and how the children are acquiring knowledge during this time. Now, I'm a conspiracy theorist. I never put that to the side. I think that it's experimentation that's happening on purpose for some children, and I'm gonna say not based on race. It has to do with economics. And if we're not careful, we're going to have a bunch of kids who can't read, can't write, can't sit still, and can't do any learning. Because I've watched also my friends and colleagues with younger children. 3-year-olds are having 3K on the screen. Now, if you are not sitting next to your 3, 4, 5, I want to say up to like about a 15-year-old, then what knowledge is taken? How can a 3-year-old learn from the screen? Now, just because they swipe that iPad and can repeat things and you see them interact with the computer doesn't mean learning is taking place. That parent who's of that 3 or 4 or 5-year-old has to be sitting next to them, going through the different work to ensure that the kid is acquiring the knowledge that's there. And then when a computer shuts down, who's reinforcing that the knowledge even took place or is going to stay or is going to have any effect on this child? It's the parent. So if we're not careful, you'll be putting your faith in a system that has not yet worked out the kinks on how to educate your child, hoping that they get it right. Meanwhile, time is passing, crucial time, because the brain development, we all know, is very vital at the ages of about 3 to 25. So in this crucial time frame, children are learning in an undiagnosed way of excellence. And yet and still, it's being put upon us, while the wealthy are finding people to give their kids 5 days instruction every day, whether it's in a school setting or privately. Now, I know we're in a pandemic, and we all can agree that when we come together, COVID spreads. Like, that's just truth, right? But still, education is a factor. So how, in spite of the pandemic, are we going to make sure, regardless of what's happening in our homes, our children acquire a decent education? So for my school, I have, like I said, grades 6, 7, 8 through 9, made learning 5 days a week for English and math, because they have to be literate, and math means critical thinking. They have to come on screen, turn on their camera. I still got to get parents on board with this, but we're working on it, because I realized 5 days a week is the only way students are going to acquire and apply instruction. Now, the ones in my home, same thing. I have to 5 days a week check in with them. What did you learn today? Let me see the assignment. Tell me what it is that you got or understood from the teacher. How are you going to apply it? I have to do that, not a sporadic check-in, but a systematic during the day check-in I have to provide for them. Now, thankfully, my husband can do it, but who are you getting to do it? So remote learning or blended model, because even in the blended model, you spend some time at home, is not for you to give your kid a computer and have them teach themselves, thinking that the teacher is equipped. No one ever taught the teacher how to teach through a computer. So what you find is there's a lot of direct talking and not a lot of interaction, and definitely not a lot of application where the child is producing work that gets critiqued, feedback, and then given to the child corrects it, and it's given back to them for more feedback. We haven't figured that out yet. Why? Because we're still trying to figure out who should come to the building and who shouldn't come to the building. Now, I'm not here to right the wrongs that happened in the summer, but I am here to say that if you are in this pandemic with a child, a young child going to school, whether it be not a sibling, your own child, it could be your sibling's kid, your auntie, your uncle, or even your neighbor's child, you need to participate in 5-day-a-week live instruction. There's no way around it. And there has to be checks for understanding in that live instruction. A video tutorial is not going to cut it. Just being on screen is not going to cut it. The child has to do something with that knowledge that they acquire. And it's got to be mimicked more or less like in-person instruction, even though they're home. I know that people think AI, artificial intelligence and computers can replace people, but it cannot replace true instruction. There's a reason why, even from the dawn of time, people have learned through apprenticeship. When you put the screen in place of a live teacher, you've taken away the human component that has been a part of education from the dawn of time. People learn through physical watching, not just on the screen. I know that we have all kind of scientific things that happen, like you could do an operation via video. You can learn to cook via video, ride a bike via video. But remember, in all the things that you are practicing via video, you are hands-on manipulating it at the same time. When you have a young mind of 3, 4, 5 years old, and up to, I want to say, through the 12th grade, where's the manipulation? The manipulation has to be that someone is showing them how to manipulate. The reason why I can watch a cooking show is because I already know measurements. The reason why I can conduct surgery is because I already have some knowledge base. But if my basic knowledge base, meaning basic reading and writing and comprehension, is not there, then the computer is not helping me to acquire literacy. I need someone to partner with me in physical form, not a screen, in order to get and become literate. And I don't think people are realizing that that's the issue with the kids that are in preschool all the way through high school. Their literacy is still formulating. And so if my literacy is still formulating, a computer can't replace a person, which means somebody has to be giving me 5-day-a-week hands-on instruction, that if the person is on the computer, somebody physically has to be with me in order to help me understand and delve into the knowledge in a way that's possible for me. So to wrap it up, remote and blended learning will be to the disaster of us all if we don't quickly adjust and focus on instruction. We need to focus on the best methods possible to teach children and how we can, in a social distance way, provide one-to-one instruction after the tutoring through the screen from the teacher has happened. Who's helping children acquire the basic skills so that the computer can then teach you once the basic skills have been acquired? That's the issue. And so I'm beseeching everyone who has child-age children in their midst to get a tutor, to check the work every day, to ensure that whatever was said on screen, the child actually can show you they know how to do, and that they can receive feedback for that learning and redo it for excellence, and then give it back to the teacher, and then they move on. There has to be an in-person physical component to this online education. The younger grades, pre-K through high school, will not be literate and functioning if we continue to think a computer and someone on the screen can impart to us basic literacy. We will learn skills, but we won't be literate. So please make sure that you are helping your young people become literate. That's my time. Once again, I got to shout out my principals that come in. You don't get enough credit. Coming in and dealing in person with the woes of your children, of parents, of families, the communities, your staff, is a whole nother level of complexity versus just being on the screen with them. Coming up and showing up has definitely taught me a few things about myself. I understand that some of us had to take the remote option, and I don't knock anyone for it, but I definitely do believe that those principals who show up deserve more pay. And I've even asked the union to figure out how to give us a differential for combat pay. It's true that when you come in, even teachers deserve, those who come in and opted to come in, hazard pay. It's not an easy feat. Never think that the person who showed up isn't scared, doesn't have some sort of ailment. It's just that in their mind, I can only speak for myself, is that I have concluded that without me, my children who show up may be missing an element of me that they need. That's why they came. And so as long as my children show up, I will show up. And I will continue to work on the instruction so that they are given a quality education, meaning when they leave Wadley or they leave my home, they're able to read, write, and think at a higher level. And they're able to critically analyze the world and come up with solutions that have yet to enter the earth. And one of the solutions that needs to enter the earth is, if we're going in direction because of the powers that be with conspiracy theorists that I am, that you think you can replace a computer with an in-person person, how can we design instruction that will be one-to-one in the way that it was when we sat in front of our teachers? That not just even the instructional part, but don't even let me start with the social emotional. Do you know what's missing with a child who's sitting in a room by themselves, no adult, for extended periods of time? Is jail. And so I don't understand in the thinking of humankind how we could think jail-like practices could ever replace the warmth of a school building. I know we are not fully equipped with people, but I know that there's people at home who love the children that they send to these schools who could step up and do a little more. So that's my time. Make sure you hug your kids every day. It's definitely necessary now, more than ever. If you don't have any kids, find a child and hug them. I know that we're scared with the pandemic to touch each other, but nothing replaces that human touch and warmth that a lot of children are not getting. And if you replace warmth and love with a robot and dead steel, we're going to pay for the repercussions of that many years to come. Make sure that if some child is in your midst, you are having educational conversations with them, readings, conversation that extends them beyond the right now. We don't want them with smooth brain, I call it, where the grooves are not being attacked with new knowledge. That's all. Thank you so much for listening. I pray if you took anything away, you took away to keep praying for those educators that show up in the building. We all want to go home safely to our families. Pray that in-person instruction will resume, and if not, and this is the new normal, that every child will receive that one-to-one tutoring that's necessary for them to become functionally literate and then functionally thinking, so that they can one day learn solely from a computer. And also encourage people to hug a kid is very, very crucial and vital, that we do not replace human touch with just looking on the screen. Thank you so much, and enjoy this time with me at the new normal.